And she did write the book that changed our entire worlds. That Christina Adams wrote the book A Real Boy. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. It's, it's a ABA has changed a lot, especially in terms of funding since she wrote that book, but it is the book that got me excited about ABA. And it became my Bible for at least a couple of years. And my husband will tell you, I would say, oh my gosh, someday I hope to meet Christina Adams, and I don't know what I will do. I don't know how I will ever thank her for this amazing book, because she really laid it out for us, and we followed in her snowshoes to do ABA with our son. And it's an amazing book. The truth is, though, she has a second book out, and it's called Camel Crazy. And I haven't really said this out loud, but I sort of think of Christina Adams as the Colonel Sanders of camel milk. Why? Because Colonel Sanders, I don't know what he was doing before in his life, but he had a whole life going on. And then it wasn't until he was older, he'd done a whole other thing, and then he went, did Colonel Sanders. He did KFC, and when I first was introduced to Christina Adams' writing, and then later to her, Camel Milk was not a part of her existence yet. I guess right after I met her is when she started on her journey with camel milk, and her whole life changed. And it's an amazing story. I encourage you, like, it's a nail biter. They need to make a movie about her life. But I encourage you to read both books, both A Real Boy and Camel Crazy. She joins us here today. She's just returned from an amazing trip to Saudi Arabia, where she spoke at the King Abdul Aziz Camel Festival. That's a mouthful. It's the largest camel festival in the world, and they just had their very first camel conference, a science and economics conference, and her topic was medical benefits of camel products. She is an expert in all things camel, in particular camel milk for autism. It's an amazing, amazing topic that's taking the world by storm. And part of what happened when Christina was in Saudi Arabia was that word got out that she was there, and she basically went viral in Saudi Arabia. So we've asked her to join us today and to talk about this amazing trip and answer any questions you guys have if you've never heard of camel milk and what camel milk has to do with autism. So please welcome, I'm so proud to say, my friend, a wonderful author, an amazing speaker, and camel milk expert, Christina Adams, back to the show. Christina.
Good morning, Shannon, and all my friends here today. I love you all. Thank you for watching and joining. And Shannon, you are, as always, just a shining star in this world. And it's great to be here again.
Well, it's thrilling for us. We also have a series that we did with Christina that we normally play when we're in the studio. We play segments from her Autism and Beyond series, and we're going to be back in the studio in March, and we can't wait to be playing those again. But they're available on YouTube. She's an amazing wealth of knowledge. So if she looks like a familiar face to you, that could be one of the reasons why. But also because she's been all over the news worldwide in the last couple of weeks. So, Christina, where do we even start with this? You went to speak at this conference, and a lot happened. Start to crack it open for us here.
A lot did happen, and I am just so honored, first of all, to be invited because when someone from another country invites you, it's a real kind of vote of confidence that you're going to come over and that you're going to do some positive things. So I think it's a really nice thing to be asked. And so I was asked by the Camel Club of Saudi Arabia, which is a very amazing organization. And then also for this conference, the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival, which is a very large festival, but then they had their first conference about camels. And this is very important because not only are camels like this kind of hiding in plain sight animal, but that I say are incredibly valuable culturally, scientifically, economically, health wise, but also that now this has been a channel for people to become aware of autism and the prevalence of autism and the importance of recognizing the needs of autistic people and their families. So it always opens that window into mainstream acceptance of the fact that there are many, many people and children with autism, and that we need to do everything we can to help them live their best lives. So they invited me to come over, and this is in conjunction with the International Camel Organization, which I'm a member of, and then also the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival. They were all sponsors of this amazing conference. So it was really special. And so, first of all, when I went to my hotel outside Riyadh, I woke up and I looked out of the window in the morning and I saw camels in the sand. And that is a great way to wake up. And then when I went outside, yes, it was just amazing. There were pictures of beautiful camels outside my hotel, they're sculptures. And so then, of course, I was taken out in the desert at the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival, and I got to see these beautiful animals with their keepers. Um, Saudi Arabia is, of course, one of the top camel cultures in the world. Camels exist for many, many centuries, in other countries. Believe it or not, they actually originated in North America. So we have a history, but that's a few million, a few thousand million, whatever years ago. But this was the camel guard that actually opened the festival, I mean, the conference at the festival. So during my first morning, we were honored to have a camel guard outside. So that was pretty special. And so then I gave my address along with most people that were scientists and PhDs. So I gave my address on the first morning. And so I was able to raise awareness of the fact that this whole camel milk industry, which is growing a lot, is largely due to the use among patients and people that have health issues. And then among those are, of course, in a large part, people and children with autism, because as we know, autism has got a connection in many ways scientifically to immune function, and therefore anything you can do to enhance your immune function and your food and your surroundings may benefit significant portions of the population of people who have autism. So that's kind of my way to kind of put these things all together into one big health picture for the world. So there I am, given my address, and there's my son. Of course, he was like the first patient in the world to have, and I use the term patient because that's a medical term. So it doesn't mean like, you're really ill, sick, and everything, but, that's just a medical terminology. So he was like the first patient in the world to try camel milk from 2 different countries, and it had the same incredible beneficial effect on him. So it showed that the camel was the delivery of this, great milk that now we know is scientifically has a lot of validity in helping not only certain people with autism, but also diabetes type 1 and 2, gut disorders, skin conditions, other immune disorders. And those are in the literature. And then now also it's being used for vaccine and treatment development for COVID-19. Camels in the lab, camelids in the lab. So this is a great new development.
Wow, that's just absolutely amazing. And I think there are probably a lot of people who are like, "What? I don't know this. I need to know more about all of this." So let's pause for a second and talk about the fact that, we really want to encourage people to read Camel Crazy to hear your story and understand why this became one of the biggest things in your life. Like, way back when this was not in the plan. Did you ever, like, when even when you were a mom and had your child, I don't think this would have ever crossed your mind that you were like, oh, and then I'm going to become a world expert on camel milk. Like, it wasn't part of your thinking, was it,
It
Christina?
it it wasn't really part of anyone's thinkings because back then, it was after my book, A Real Boy, came out, and so I was lecturing and doing all this stuff, for, that book. Yes, there is, and Shannon, thank you as ever for your kind words about it. I'm really glad that people are still reading it. And so no way. I mean, I knew that milk was a real problem for my son and many, many other people. And this was regular cow milk, but also goat I had tried, things like that. It would actually really bother a lot of children with autism, and they would have their symptoms that were not things that we wanted to see increase, like sleeplessness, irritation, tantrums, all that, skin issues. So the milk had always been a problem. And when I met this camel at a children's book festival, and I just talked to the camel guy, I didn't have any idea that I was going to enter into this entire world of camels, camel milk, and now I'm really an advocate for the cultures and the people that have camels and the animals. So who knows? But I'm just saying, autism is a situation that can isolate we as parents and the people that have autism. And we have so much to share with the world. We want to still engage in the world. And so the fact that I reached out and I kind of asked questions, and really people from other cultures were very key in helping me. And so when you reach out to others, and sometimes people from other cultures, they don't let that be a barrier. And this is what we need in the world. We need people to come together and solve problems together. And I've always found that people are very, very kind to me, especially from other cultures. They really, a lot of cultures are very child centric. They really get the importance of family and culture, and family, and kids. I mean, family, and like having that family be healthy, and they're more community in some ways than America. We're pretty individualistic. So sometimes there we are stuck in our houses raising our child. We get left out by society and school. I have found that people from other cultures often are much more empathetic to some of our issues. And I have found that they have just been the kindest people. So this really took me on an odyssey to research the camels, the milk, and I ended up making great friends with people from many cultures. So it's been a real privilege. What a beautiful montage. Thank you for showing this, Shannon. So after the festival, which was amazing scientific gathering, then I did a ton of media, and we went viral on social media. Snapchat is very popular in Saudi. So some younger person put me on Snapchat, and people, when I walked into rooms after that, were like, "Oh, you're on Snapchat. That's you." I'm like, "Oh, wow, cool." So then it was really fortunate. I got to go to this amazing camel hospital, perhaps one of the largest animal hospitals in the world. I got to speak to autism families. And I will say also that it was really great. I got to meet some Bedouins. I went and milked their camels. You can see me lower right with a wonderful Bedouin host. I went out in the desert and we discussed camel milk and stories. One of the people in this group, the first group of Bedouins, which you can see the picture on the right, his grandmother, not the one you can see, but another gentleman, his grandmother left her tribe as a teenager. She didn't like living there in Saudi Arabia. She took her camels and she walked and walked for 4 months. There was no water and it was not good. So she lived off the milk. And then she settled by herself in a place and she lived off camel milk and not even water for 4 years. And then
Wow.
somebody from her tribe found her and they said, "Please come home with us." And she said, "There's no good water." But they helped her get home. The woman is now 100 years old, over 100, and she's just now starting to not feel well.
Wow, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So I started to say, if somebody wants to know more about the camel milk and the benefits of camel milk, I would definitely tell them to start with your book, Camel Crazy. But they probably the best place for them to come to is to you. But how should they do that?
Well, because I know all the questions that everybody's going to have about camel milk, and they want to know, how much do I use? How do I get ready for it? Where do I buy it? How do I prepare for it? How long do I give it? On and on. How much do I take? This is all in the back of Camel Crazy, and it's a user's guide that I put in there just for you. And then for the people that are interested in the journey, and especially I think that some of us who have children, and it's kind of, we've had to focus on them. It's really good for us to read about what we still can contribute to the world and how we can participate. So I think that's a good story. But then I would just say read the book, and then if you need any information or whatever, you can reach me on all my social media. Of course, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook a couple of times. My website is ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com. I also do speaking. If you have a book club or events, things like that, feel free to reach out. But then also, there's other things that you can do. You can certainly talk to your local autism societies or things like that, and then maybe they can have me do a speaking event so we can reach more people all at the same time. When I was in Saudi Arabia, I was fortunate to be contacted by Princess Samira Al Saud, and she is a remarkable human being. She has a son with autism and another son with schizophrenia. And she set up a center, and I think the proper name is the Center for, oh, I got it here among my papers, but it's the Center for, hold on here, got it. Lots of lots of events happen there, so I'm trying to keep them all
Yes.
straight. is the Quality of Life Center in Riyadh. And so she kindly got in touch with me. I visited that center, which is very high quality. It's all about life skills, and they live a very good quality life there. And she knows that they want to expand autism services there in Saudi Arabia. So we went on a bit of a speaking tour, and we had a lot of incredible things happen. We spoke at a big gathering in Qasim, which is a really nice part of Saudi Arabia. And then I spoke to autism families at the Society for Autism Families that she set up in Riyadh. And it was very nice. They had a thing called, my experience with my autistic child. We had a lot of families turn out, even though it was a rainy night with short notice. And somebody in there said, yes, I gave my son camel milk and he started to get a lot better. And he was doing this and this and this socially that he'd never done. But then he didn't want to drink the milk anymore. So I don't know what to do. So it was nice to hear that testimonial. And then I also spoke with some other lecturers, most of who have PhDs and are scientists, and I knew about their work. I met them in person, and it was just such an honor. And they knew about my work too. So to make those scientific connections was really special.
It's such a remarkable story, and I do want to say, because I know that you won't toot your own horn, but if you were somebody, even as soon as 8 years ago, if you were saying, okay, well, I'd like to try camel milk for my child, you would have had to jump through such amazing hoops. And of course, in Camel Crazy, you detail some of what you had to do to be able to get camel milk legally into the United States in a way that your son could drink it, because there were so many hoops to jump through. But because of the work that you have done, Christina, it is now pretty widely available here in the United States, that there are even some places where you can buy it. Am I right? Like in a Whole Foods market, you can buy camel milk now?
You can buy camel milk in many grocery stores, even ones like Bristol Farms. And there are some smaller markets that have it. And then there was a store in Beverly Hills that was selling it for $30 for a 16-ounce bottle. So those things are all great, but I'm actually saying that it's really nice to contact the farmers and get it from them, because that way the money goes straight to them. And then you can ask all the questions you want. And it's a little more affordable too.
Yeah.
But plus, it is great now, as I talk about in my lectures, I really consider this my son's legacy, because my work with camel milk really helped set off the whole movement around the world. But that is my son's experience. It's just my duty to carry that forward. And he is just, I tell him, you've always left a huge mark on the world and you're still leaving it. So now the camel milk market is projected to grow 7 to 10% over the next 10 years. And this is an economic forecast. So yes, it's still out of the mainstream. And I always say, people say, why isn't FDA approved? Why isn't it a drug? Why isn't this and that? First of all, it's a food. There is no money in making a drug out of it unless you put like almost maybe $1 billion now is what it costs to make a new drug and get it approved. So a drug company isn't really incentivized to do that, because they can't patent a milk. So I do hope someday they will do this. But on the other hand, I'm in just favor in just drinking milk and keeping those animals on the land. It's also very important to pastoralist cultures in our own country, America, and then other countries like India, Africa, the Middle East, places in Europe. Like this animal, a lot of people depend on it. Like when I started this, Shannon, like you said, did I ever dream of this? Heck no. But it turned out, like I thought camels were part of history or in Egypt, like the pyramids. So I had no idea there were still all these cultures out there that depend on the camel. And it's just really been amazing. And the milk is really great. I drink it almost every day if I can, every week myself. And so I just think it's really, now that we care about health and biodiversity and climate, supporting small scale farmers is really important. And supporting camel milk is pretty much as a sustainable product as you can get, because they're much healthier for the environment than cows. They take so much less water, they put out so much less waste, and it actually helps women too, because a lot of times women will benefit from that milk money and they can spend the money on their children, even their girl children, which in some really challenged areas, girl children don't get those advantages if they don't have the money versus boy children. So this is just a good social thing to do all the way around, in my opinion. And you can certainly, hit me up on social media and we'll chat about it all day long.
There we go. And I find it interesting because there are other things like kale. There's been a big push about kale. Kale's so healthy. Kale, 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 and we don't talk about making kale a drug. I think we need to get to a point where we all recognize there are people who say that what you eat does not equal how you feel. I just don't understand where they're coming from because we know that's not true. If you drink a pint of beer, it's going to affect how you feel. And that some of us, it's interesting, we've been talking about hyper and hyposensitivity. Some people are more sensitive to other things than other people. I can't drink cow milk. I drink cow milk and I break out into hives. This is not, this is not everyone, but I can't do that. And we've seen that there are lots of children on the spectrum and not on the spectrum that have reactions to cow milk. And we can talk all day long about, is it what the cows were fed, or is it the protein in the milk? We can talk about that forever, but the fact remains there are a lot of people who can't handle certain substances. So I think logically it only follows that some foods are different and better for people than others, and some foods are just better in general for most of the public. And camel milk, it's not a big surprise. I mean, for generations they use camel milk to help heal lots of different ailments, right?
Yes, they have. It's known as nature's pharmacy. And pastoralist and Bedouin people have used it for centuries. And I've even seen it in since I started digging back into the old literature. You'll see like little references to the milk. Oh, somebody was sick in Egypt and then they went and they got it for free, to give to their sick family member. And this is still happening to this day, by the way, in many countries. But see, it's just a big picture and it makes sense because now let's talk about autism for just a second in light of what you said. We know scientifically, because I'm always digging in the literature, that there are considered to be at least 6 subtypes of autism medically. So that means they're all different and they all have different things. And as we say constantly on this channel and those of us in this world, autism is just a thing that, it doesn't describe you as an individual. It doesn't describe your unique biology. And we all have a unique biology. We all have differences. And so that's why these broad pronouncements are not really accurate. That's why certain foods do affect certain people. I mean, we know this, but again, food is not a commercially rewarding category for people to make big money out of it, for investors to go in on it. And, so the healthy foods are a niche and they're great, but to show that a food has a certain effect and be able to claim that, you have to make a study, you have to then make, all these trials, you have to spend a ton of money. So really, it's just very good to eat a good variety of foods. And if dairy doesn't affect you, great. It doesn't affect me one bit. But I do notice that when I have camel milk, I just feel good on it. And so it doesn't hurt me, but it probably helps me a little bit. And it does help our immune system in many, many ways because there are so many people out there now that I hear from. I don't make false medical claims. I never do that. But anecdotally speaking, that just means stories. There are people that tell me, I couldn't walk, I couldn't get out of bed because I was only eating like 5 foods. That's all they could tolerate. These are adults with severe food and gut issues. They got on camel milk and they were able to survive and thrive and increase the amount of foods they can eat and function again. There are people like that out there. So, they're not autistic, but they just have their own thing. So, find what works for you. You can investigate, you can try different things, but you have to find what works for you. And, let's just all be sensible. Let's listen to each other and we'll all be sensible. That's the bottom line.
And in that vein, talking about sensible, you're not advocating for people to go out and guzzle camel milk, and it is expensive, so you wouldn't want to do that. But you do really need to get the back of Christina's book out and take a look at what the recommendations are, because the recommendation is not to drink a lot of it. It doesn't take a whole lot to get the effect that you're looking for. So you'll definitely want to read that.
Yeah,
Um,
and just so you can see how easy it is, like, this is the book itself. It has some beautiful pictures, so it's actually a good book for children and families to read together. You can learn about other cultures, which is one thing that I wish we all did more of, and an animal. That's really cool. But then this is the back, just the appendix, the user's guide. And I've got it all here, very easy. So guzzling camel milk is a great thing. But if you don't have a camel, it can be a little bit pricey habit. So
There you go. There you go. But, talking about this trip to Saudi Arabia, I think sometimes we get insular in our own experience and think, I know I've described in the beginning years of having a child on the spectrum, I felt like I was on Mars by myself. And then we start to realize that there is a community of people and that there are more people than we are aware of. But I think often people don't realize that it isn't just in our country that autism is happening. It happens around the world to people of all different types of cultures. And it certainly hasn't bypassed Saudi Arabia. There is a large autism community in Saudi Arabia. Talk a little bit about that.
yes, I'd be happy to. So, doing my research for this particular trip, I came across the new numbers in autism that just happened to come out around that time, and so the top 10 countries in the world for the highest rate of autism. And again, this is just on the available data, so you can talk about data accuracy all year long, but the top 10 countries in the world for the highest autism rate, according to data, are in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia is number 5. So this is a global thing. In our own country, now it's 1 out of 44. But when you break it down, it's actually more than that in the smaller subgroups. But this is a global issue. It affects everyone. And so they do have autism. Of course, we all know that people have at different places, but they're kind of in an earlier stage of addressing it, but they are starting to address it, which is great. They do have some centers there, but they want to get more early intervention and they want to get more for adults. And I was lucky enough to have a meeting with the Ministry of Education in Qasim, Saudi Arabia, which is a very beautiful town. Well, it's actually, I think, a broader place, and then they have different cities in it. But I had a meeting with them. There were 27 people in the room. They were taking it very seriously. So I was there with Princess Samira, and she had a great take on this. She says, if we don't take in and accept all the kids with problems, then how can we fix the problems? And so we were talking about early intervention, diagnosis center, training for aides to support the children as they go into school, training for families, and then trying to get this more, as we do in every country, get this more institutionalized and get more of the support coming in. So I did meet some amazing teachers and officials in that meeting. And so they have schools for boys that have autism and special needs, and then they have school for girls, and they are looking at higher demand. They know they need more, and they're talking about they would like to have earlier stage of diagnosis. And then, like most of us when these things start coming in, we need flexibility in how we address our needs of our population and families. And so they were talking about just like us, we're all one big family. We need more inclusion in mainstream. We need more awareness. We need to get rid of the stigma among families. We need, more official recognition of and resources. It's the same story everywhere. So I'm really excited to see that they are, stepping up and looking at this. And that was just a great thing to be able to do that. And then, I did also see a special needs center. Looked very nice, very well run. I've seen different special needs schools in India and Cuba and America, different places, and it looked very nice, pristine. They have, when you walk in, you see the same things that we have. You see the occupational therapy part. You see the part where you talk to the parents. You see the little pretend masjid, which is like a mosque in their place instead of church. You see the little grocery store area. So for the play therapy kind of. And so it's just a big global family that we're in here. And we just, everybody needs more support across the world. And that's what, we hope is going to happen.
Christina, you're just such a gift to the autism community. You've been a gift in my life. And I know you're also a beautiful writer. And I just can't think of anybody's hands I would rather have this in than yours as you travel the world and see all these people. And I know you've got so many things and people pushing and pulling and asking you to do lots of things, but I personally think that your next book should be Autism Around the World, and share some of your beautiful stories and your beautiful photographs, because it it really strikes a chord with me that, when I've had the opportunity to meet someone from a different place in the world and a different culture, and hear that their mom's heart is the exact same as my mom's heart, and that we all want the same thing for our kids to thrive and be well, it really strips away all of the other things, all the other ways that we look and go, I feel different from this person. We are all the same. And I always feel that when I talk to you, when you came back from Cuba, I felt the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, they're going through a lot of, I mean, it's always different. It's always
Mhm.
different. No two parents are going through the same thing, but at the core, the thread is the same. So I'm asking for a book, Autism Around the World. Take it for what it's worth. Um, but I wanted to take just a second. You have all these stories and these beautiful pictures, to talk a little bit about the culture, that, and while you were there, you were posting occasionally. You were always days behind because it takes a while to process what you're doing and then post. So I appreciate that because I do the same thing. But you were the things you were seeing were absolutely amazing, and I've always been stunned. The first time that you went out into the desert and came back and said, oh, I sat down with Bedouins, and I was like, you did what? Well, like what? What's that all about? So talk a little bit about some of the amazing things that you saw.
I would really love to, because Saudi is not a country that a lot of people have been to. Even though it's funny, they have been sending their students here to get education for decades, and so not a lot of people have been there, though, that in the general public. So I was really excited to go, and I think I timed it well because not that I timed it, but it worked out well because COVID was not a big. It was still an issue always, but of course, I don't think that it was quite a super infectious stage at that time. I think I dodged it pretty well, but I was very cautious. I wore my N95, so I took a lot of precautions. So I'm not telling people to run around out there right now. It's just I was able to make it work, and I spent a lot of time outside, which you can do in the desert. So I would say that my experience of the Arabian hospitality was just amazing. And every country is usually very hospitable and nice to me. But the Arabian hospitality, I'd heard it was pretty amazing, but it is just in them. From the Bedouins that drove me around in their trucks and bought me beautiful cookies and gave me a beautiful piece of artwork with camels on it, to my hosts at the Camel Club and ICO and the festival, King Abdulaziz Camel Festival. Look at that beautiful plaque they gave me in its own box. Um, they just treated me great. But then I realized this is in the people. It's their culture. If you like something or you're something somewhere, they'll just hand it to you. They'll just say, "Please take it," or "Please be my guest." And then the constant caring about your food. It was so, I can't believe how surrounded by amazing, delicious food and drinks I was at every second of my life. So the tea and Arabic coffee and the little sweets everywhere. When I lectured on stage at the Society for Autism Families, that I got this nice certificate from them. I'm on the stage with a neurologist to the left of me, and here comes my sandwich to eat on stage, and my tea is poured while I'm on stage. And I'm like, I can get used to this. So they were very generous people, and it's in their culture to treat the guests really well. So everybody was super nice. And, I can just tell you that any preconceptions that we have about visiting different places or cultures, of course, you're going to have to see what applies to you and what situation you're in. But to me, when I meet people from different countries, it always has turned out to be a positive thing. And it has also made me a better host. When I now am in America, I feel like I'm a better host to my own friends and then to people from other countries because I've kind of learned how to be more generous. Here in this country, we're a little bit more closed off, but I think we could be better. Culturally, also, a lot of people have asked me, like, what did you have to wear?
Yeah.
So, I at the science conference, there's real international thing, and you can just wear your clothes that you should. I mean, normally I dress more modestly when I'm in a science type of arena or a culture, so it wasn't an issue for me. And I do believe now that tourists do not have to wear, or visitors do not have to wear a hijab if they don't wish, or an abaya, which is like the long cloak that a lot of the women wear. However, when I went out into the cultures and met with people, I was much more comfortable wearing it because the women do still wear that. And a lot of men wear their traditional dress. Now, I did notice the younger women are wearing lighter colored hijabs, their scarves, and lighter colored abayas. And I had a black one, which was very beautiful. It had crystals on it, things like that. And a lot of women still wear the black, the full niqab and everything. But then also the younger women were saying, you should get a light colored abaya. You should get this, look, I have one that matches this and it's red or it's yellow. I'm like, man, I come over here and I'm already behind the times. But with these young people telling me what to do. But it was super cute. And it actually, everyone appreciated, what I was wearing. And I do think it's better when you go to a different culture. Just, go with the flow, observe what they're doing and do what you feel is proper to do to show respect to their culture.
Yeah. And again, we have to recognize that autism is everywhere. And and honestly, I can't think of anybody who's been more places than you have been, Christina, because you've been to India, you've been to Cuba, uh, countless other places. So if somebody's watching, and we have a big international audience, we have somebody watching from India right now that they've written in and said,
Namaste.
we have people who watch regularly from Pakistan and from Dubai and really everywhere, from Africa. So if there is someone who's watching who's like, we'd really love to have Christina come and talk. She has a wealth of knowledge, certainly about camel milk, but that's honestly your newest thing, and you are an expert in camel milk, but you're also someone who can speak very eloquently about other autism interventions as well, including ABA, which is largely what your first book is about, A Real Boy, as I've said. Person who got us on the pathway to ABA. I'm always going to be grateful to you, Christina. Always, always, always. So, if people want to reach out to you because they want you to speak, whether it's in the United States or someplace else, tell them again where they should go.
So I'm on Twitter at Christina Think. I'm on Instagram at Christina Adams Author. And my website is Christina Adams Author. I'm on Facebook at Christina Adams Author. And then I also have a Facebook page called Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious World of Camels. So there's about a bajillion ways to get a hold of me, and I welcome it. And yeah, namaste. I see Sharmila from is saying that. Thank you so much. And assalamu alaikum to my friends from our Islamic countries. And I just send all of my greetings to everyone. And I would like to show you, this is so adorable. When I was there, I was out in the desert and I was on NBC, which is a very large network in the Middle East. And after filming that, the host asked me to stay for dinner, and never say no to dinner, please, in an Arabic country. That would be a big mistake because you'll miss out. And I got them to sign the inside of my book.
Oh,
So what beautiful memories. How sweet. And of course, it got camel dirt and poo on it. So it's been early christened. So this is probably my special copy now. Mhm.
that's amazing. I for your first book, A Real Boy, I said I carried it with me everywhere for a couple of months, and it was so dog-eared. It had everything in the world. It had been in the bathtub with me. You know what I mean?
Oh
So it
wow.
had gotten wet, and then I felt I needed to share with other people. So I always ended up having a couple of copies of your book that I used to give to people when they would say to me, Shannon, my child just got diagnosed. I would give them your book. So um, she writes the kind of books that's what happens, you guys. You end up taking it with you everywhere. I don't know that everybody gets camel poo on them, but I've loved camels since I was a child. And Christina, we keep talking about, at some point you and I are going to go and visit camels together. I hope that COVID gets over soon so that we can do that sometime soon.
Yeah, I think we can set that up. And then for people that want the books, they are for sale on Amazon in different countries. You can get an ebook. And then also, certainly, you can get it from a bookstore that order it for you. So you can get this book. And if you cannot, write to me and I'll try to set it up. So we'll find you a place where you can get both of my
There you
books.
go.
Okay.
You are a treasure, madam. We are so grateful for you and for your time. And we look forward to hearing what your next adventure is. But really, autism around the world. I'm just saying.
Shannon, when you put an earworm in my ear, I always have to listen. So, you know, you are amazing, and thank you for having me and for everything you're doing for our world and our beloved people that have autism and their families.
I adore you. I appreciate you so much. So thank you so much for being here. You guys, I have to tell you that tomorrow you're going to want to be here for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have a wonderful, wonderful spokesperson from CIP International that they work on the transition time. You're not going to want to miss this because all of our kids at some point are going to transition. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Thank you again, Christina.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.